Today's show is brought to you by Bruce Fine Construction. If you can't find the house to buy, maybe it's time to build your house. Bruce built my home, and I know he can build your home too. Check him out today at brucefineconstruction.com or call at 570-362-1185. Today's episode is brought to you by Pillar to Post Home Inspectors. Don't buy a home without getting it inspected. You need to use a home inspector you can trust, and that's why I recommend Eric Rubin at Pillar to Post Home Inspectors. If you're buying a home, call the Rubin team today at 570-438-1010. This episode is brought to you today by Whitehall Mortgage. Where there's a will, there's a Whitehall. Buying a home starts by getting a pre-approval, and nobody does it better than Doug in Dallas. Call them today at 570-562-7505 or apply online at whitehallmortgagefinancial.com. Hi, everybody. I'm Dave Wychuck. I'm the host of the Real Estate Right Now podcast, and I have a great episode for you today. I call this episode the Multifamily Life Hack. And, I say it all the time. Wouldn't it be great if you could own your own home without having to worry about paying a mortgage? And I'm here to tell you now, that's 100% possible if you're willing to live in a multifamily property. So when you get your pre-approval, if you're a first-time home buyer or and maybe you qualify, another great thing about this is maybe you qualify for an FHA loan, so you don't even have to put a ton of money down. Those pre-approvals, they're good for 1 to 4 unit properties. So the more units you can have, the more rents you're collecting, the better it can be for you. So in some areas of the country, Northeastern Pennsylvania, where we live, is definitely one of them. If you were fortunate enough to find a 4-unit property that's in pretty good condition, and if you were willing to live in one of those 4 units, in many cases, the rent from the other 3 units would cover your total monthly payment, your mortgage, your taxes, your insurance. And what better way to get ahead, especially if you're a young person, than to have your own place, live in a house that you own, and your tenants are making the payment for you. So one example I found on our local MLS, there was a 4-unit property, and it had 2 bedrooms in each unit. Now, if you purchase that at about $350,000, it was a little bit more. So let's say you're financing $350,000. If you were to finance that at 6.5% with the taxes and the insurance included, the total monthly payment on that property would have been about $2,800 a month. Now, in Northeastern Pennsylvania, it's reasonable for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartment in pretty good shape to rent out for about $1,000 a piece. So if you have 3 tenants, each paying you $1,000 a piece, that's $3,000 of income. And your mortgage payment with your taxes and insurance combined are $2,800. Not only are the tenants paying your mortgage, you actually have about a $200 a month surplus. Now, obviously, that's a great way to start off, right? Because you're living in a place, you own it. You're not the tenant, you're the landlord. You have the rents coming in, the rents are paying your mortgage, you're doing great. The advice I give then is, well, maybe, people say, well, Dave, I don't want to live in a 4-unit apartment building for the rest of my life. And I understand. I agree. Maybe you want to buy a single family home eventually. Well, this pays dividends even further down the road. So, for example, if you were living in one of those 4 units and you were the person paying rent, be $1,000 a month. So my advice for people who are willing to do this multifamily life hack is your tenants are paying your mortgage, but you should also pay rent to yourself. So if you charge yourself $1,000 a month rent, all right, and you're willing to live there for just 4 years, all right, you're paying $1,000 into your own bank account. You have the $200 surplus from the other 3 rents. So every month you're saving $1,200. If you could do that for 4 years, you will have saved $57,600. It's a ton of money. I talk about the multifamily life hack. I say, think about it as like the real estate version of college. People say, well, if I get a 4-year degree, it's going to make the rest of my life better. And in most cases, I think that's true, or in many cases, I think that's true. Well, if you're willing to do the multifamily life hack, 4 years of doing this can literally make the rest of your life better. So now you have that $57,600 saved after just 4 years. If you put now, and you want to live in a single family home, in Northeastern Pennsylvania, it's very reasonable to pay $200,000 for a single family home in a somewhat reasonable area, and it's yours, right? So if you took $50,000 and you put it down on a $200,000 home, right now interest rates, if you have really good credit, about 6.5%. So with taxes and insurance, if you put $50,000 down on a $200,000 home, you're only financing $150,000. Your total monthly mortgage payment, it's going to be about $1,200 a month. So now think about what that means. You're no longer living in that fourth unit. You move out, a tenant moves in. So now you have 4 tenants paying you $1,000 a month. So you're bringing in $4,000 a month. And your monthly payment on that 4 unit is $2,800 a month. So your surplus is $1,200. And your mortgage payment on a single family home is $1,200. So 4 years of being willing to do that, and you can use your rental income to not only pay the mortgage on your investment property, it's also going to pay the mortgage on your single family home that you're living in. So you're essentially living for free. It's doable. There's places in the country where you can do this. Northeastern Pennsylvania is one of them where it is possible. So, I talk to people a lot and they say, well, geez, Dave, I don't know if I want to, live in an apartment building. And I say, well, where do you live now? And they go, in an apartment building. And it's like, well, if you're living there now, can you do it for 4 more years with the caveat of you're the owner of that apartment building? Because if you can do it, and if you can make it work for 4 years, it can literally change the rest of your life. Not to mention the tax benefits that you get when owning a rental property, where you're going to get to write off depreciation and you're going to write off mortgage interest and all those things. So the tax benefits make this worth it as well. But if you're willing to live in a 4-unit property and you're fortunate enough to live in an area where the rents will cover the mortgage, it could literally change your life. And you can realistically, essentially, build your net worth through real estate. So I say it all the time, if you're living in an apartment complex or if you're living in a multifamily building, you might as well own it. So if you can tolerate it and you could do the real estate version of college, it can change your life for the better. And that's exactly why I call it the multifamily life hack. And if you're thinking about buying a house, it's something that at the very least you should look into and consider, because it's something that works for a lot of people. Thanks for joining us for today's episode, everybody. If you want to hear more content, follow us at Real Estate Right Now Pod on YouTube. Once you're there, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. And if you want to follow me directly, check me out. It's Dave Wychak at Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, all the socials that you're already using.